Peace be upon you, and welcome to a new episode. Imagine with me for a moment a young man named Hassan, 26 years old, living in Esbet Ahmed Bek Shukri in the village of Al-Alawiya, Zagazig Center, Sharqiya Governorate. A young man just like any other Egyptian youth, dreaming of a peaceful life, getting married, having a home and a family, living like everyone else. He worked as a government employee. His salary wasn't much, barely enough to cover daily expenses, but he was content with his life. Every morning he'd wake up, put on his shirt, head to his job at the Zagazig post office, serve people all day, then come home at night exhausted. He'd find his mother had prepared him a plate of full madams or falafel, and he'd sit with her and his father to chat about life. Hassan was known in the village for his kindness. Always cheerful, he loved to laugh and joke around with the neighbors. But suddenly, his life turned upside down. The young man who once dreamed of stability found himself trapped in a nightmare no one could have imagined. His end was brutal, tragic, and in the very place that was supposed to be his safe haven, his home. What happened? How did someone like Hassan, still in the prime of his youth, become the victim of a crime that shook Esbet Ahmed Bek Shukri and all of Sharqiya? The story we're going to tell today is full of mystery, drama, and details that will leave you in disbelief. How life can turn from a dream to a nightmare in seconds. We'll take you through every moment, from the time Hassan started thinking about marriage to the day his life and the lives of everyone around him changed forever. Get ready, because this story will take you on a journey full of shocks. But before we begin our story, don't forget to like and share this episode so it reaches as many people as possible. And if you're a fan of Indian stories, subscribe to our other channel to stay updated with all the new content. You'll find the link in the description box. And without further delay, let's dive deep into our story. At the beginning of 2019, specifically in February, life in Esbet Ahmed Bek Shukri was calm as usual. This village, like any other village in the rural areas of Sharqiya, was full of simplicity. Everyone knew each other, and neighbors were like family. Hassan was one of those people, an ordinary young man, 26 years old. His father, Muhammad, a man in his late 60s, used to work in agriculture but now stayed at home. Hassan loved spending time with his parents in the evening, chatting about his day, laughing about funny things that happened at work. But deep down, he had a big dream. He wanted to get married, find a good woman, build a home, and start a family, just like God intended. But the problem was his financial situation. His salary as a government employee was around 2,000 Egyptian pounds, which is about $40 per month, barely enough to cover rent, food, and daily expenses. The gold engagement ring, home furniture, wedding costs, hairdresser, and photo shoot. All of that seemed like distant dreams. One day in February 2019, while he was sitting with some relatives at the local coffee shop, they started talking about this topic. One of them, named Ahmed, a cousin from his mother's side, said, "Hassan, you're not going to be able to afford gold jewelry or a wedding like the people with money. If you want to get married, you need to think smart." Hassan asked, "What do you mean by smart?" Ahmed replied, "Look for someone who's content with little, like a divorced woman or a widow. She won't demand gold or a lavish wedding. She'll live with you as you are." Hassan thought about it. He truly didn't want to get himself into debt just to get married. He had friends in the village who married women from outside, and they would talk about how traditional marriage had become difficult. Just the gold ring alone could cost 50,000 Egyptian pounds, and the furniture and wedding another 50,000, around 2,000 US dollars in total. Hassan knew his salary would never allow for that kind of life. In late February 2019, a relative from his mother's side, named Zainab, came to him and said, "There's a girl named Wafaa, 22 years old. She was married before, but got divorced. She has a son and a daughter, but she's willing to marry you without any costs. She'll leave her kids with her family and come live with you." Hassan felt this was an opportunity he couldn't miss. Wafaa was young, 4 years younger than him, and wouldn't ask for things he couldn't afford. He told Zainab, "All right, talk to her family, and let's see how it goes." In early March 2019, Zainab arranged a meeting between Hassan and Wafaa's family. Hassan went to her family's house, which was in the same village, just a few streets away. Their home was modest, like his own, built from red bricks but with a touch of cleanliness and organization. Wafaa's mother, named Fatma, welcomed him warmly and told him about her daughter. She said that Wafaa got married when she was 18, but the marriage didn't last due to problems with her first husband. Now she had a son and a daughter, but she was ready to start a new life. Wafaa's father, named Ibrahim, was a simple man who worked as a plumber, and he agreed to the marriage. He said to Hassan, "My son, Wafaa is a good girl, but she needs someone who will be patient with her." Hassan sat down with Wafaa for a while, and they talked about life. She was quiet at first, but Hassan noticed a strength and determination in her eyes. He felt she could be a good life partner, especially since she was willing to live with him on very little. In mid-March 2019, the engagement was agreed upon. There was no gold engagement ring, no fancy dress, not even a photo shoot like other people have. But Hassan was happy. He felt that he had finally found a girl who would live with him the way he lived. His parents, Mohammed and Sayeda, were glad that their son had found someone content with his circumstances. In late April 2019, they began preparing for the wedding. Hassan bought a new bed from the market and a small wardrobe from a carpenter in the village. Wafaa's family brought some blankets and pillows to help them. Sayeda, Hassan's mother, helped prepare the room they would live in. She laid down a small rug and hung some simple curtains to make the room look nice. Everything was modest, but filled with a sense of hope and optimism. The marriage took place on July 25, 2019. There was no big wedding party, no parade, no salon appointment. Everything happened at Hassan's house. His family and Wafaa's family gathered, brought in a sheikh from the mosque, recited Al-Fatiha, and signed the marriage contract. Hassan wore an old suit he already had, and Wafaa wore a simple white dress she bought from the market. The people in the village congratulated them and wished them a happy life. Hassan was very happy. At last, he had a wife, a home, and a new life. That evening, he sat with his parents, and they talked about the future. Muhammad said, "My son, may God bless you. Be a man and be patient with your wife." Sayeda said, "God willing, you'll have a big family and we'll see your children." But no one could have imagined that this marriage, which was supposed to be the start of a dream, would turn into a nightmare in less than a month. From the very first week of marriage, around July 26, 2019, problems began to emerge. Hassan, who had imagined Wafaa would be a calm and content wife, found himself facing someone who wanted to control everything. On July 27, 2019, while they were sitting in the living room, Wafaa said to him, "Hassan, we need to agree on something starting now. When you get your salary, you'll give it to me, and I'll decide how much allowance you get." Hassan was shocked. What did that even mean? He was the man of the house. It was his salary, his hard-earned money from morning till evening. and now she wanted to control it like he was a little boy. He replied, "What do you mean I should be like a child, reaching out for pocket money?" Wafaa coldly replied, "Yes, exactly. I will manage the household. I'll buy the chicken, meat, potatoes, beans. You don't get involved." Hassan felt this was very strange. They were only in the first week of marriage. This was supposed to be the honeymoon period, a time for laughter and dreaming together. But instead of love and warmth, he found himself in daily arguments. His parents, Mohammed and Sayeda, who lived with them in the same house, tried to intervene. Sayeda said to Wafaa, "My daughter, this isn't right. Hassan is the man, and you're still a new bride." But Wafaa wouldn't listen. She boldly replied, "No one gets between me and my husband." Imagine that, a bride just 2 days into her marriage, talking to her in-laws like that. Mohammed, Hassan's father, said, "My daughter, we just want what's best for you both. You need to calm things down." But Wafaa escalated it even more. She said to him, "I will be the one to decide everything in this house." Hassan tried to calm things down, but he felt like the house was closing in on him. On August 1, 2019, the problems began to grow. Wafaa started asking for money every single day. She would say to Hassan, "Bring money so we can buy food." Hassan tried to explain to her that his salary was limited and that he was covering all the household expenses: rent, electricity, water, food. But Wafaa wouldn't accept that. One day, she yelled at him in front of his mother, Sayeda, and said, "You don't even know how to run a household." Sayeda was upset by that and told her, "My daughter, you're still new with us. It's not right to talk like that." Wafaa replied, "I'm free to say what I want. He's my husband." Hassan felt his dignity was being crushed, but he tried to be patient so he wouldn't embarrass himself in front of others. On August 5, 2019, Hassan decided to call Wafaa's mother, Fatma. He told her, "Auntie, I don't know how to live with Wafaa. It's arguments every day. She wants to control everything." Fatma came to the house, along with her aunt's husband, an elderly man named Mahmoud. They both tried to calm things down. Fatma said to Wafaa, "My daughter, you're a new bride. You need to be patient." Mahmoud told her, "Wafaa, this behavior is shameful. Hassan is your husband. You need to respect him." But Wafaa was stubborn. She said to them, "I'm the one who will control the house. Hassan has no say." Mahmoud was shocked by her boldness and said, "My daughter, if you keep going like this, you'll destroy your home." But Wafaa wouldn't back down. By the second week, around August 10, 2019, things got even worse. Wafaa began arguing with Hassan over petty things. Once because she didn't like the food, another time because he spent too much time with his family, and another because he didn't bring home the amount of money she wanted. Hassan would go to work every day feeling suffocated, constantly thinking of how to solve the problem. One day, while sitting with his father, Mohammed, he said, "Dad, I don't know what to do. Wafaa is getting worse every day." Mohammed told him, "My son, be patient. Marriage is hard at first, but she'll calm down." But the truth was, Wafaa wasn't calming down at all. On August 12, 2019, a major fight broke out. Wafaa yelled at Hassan in front of his father and mother saying, "You're not a man. You run to my mom like a little kid." Hassan felt his dignity was completely shattered. He called Fatma again and asked her to come calm her daughter down. Fatma came, along with Mahmoud, but this time Wafaa was even more stubborn. She told them, "I won't stay quiet. Hassan has to obey me." Mahmoud shouted at her, "My daughter, you're wrong. If you keep this up, you'll end up back at your father's house." But Wafaa responded, "No one tells me what to do." Hassan sat there in silence, unsure how to react. He felt like the house had become a prison. On August 15, 2019, Hassan began seriously thinking that this marriage was a mistake. He spoke with a co-worker named Mustafa and told him everything that was going on. Mustafa told him, "Hassan, if things are like this, talk to her family seriously or see if there's a legal solution." But Hassan was afraid. Afraid of what people would say. Afraid of divorcing Wafaa and being labeled as not a real man, or that people would say she left him. His parents, Muhammad and Sayeda, advised him to be patient and told him, "My son, she's still a new bride. She'll calm down with time." But the truth was, things were only getting worse day by day. On August 20, 2019, another fight happened. This time, Wafaa yelled at Hassan because he brought food she didn't like. She told him, "You don't know how to bring anything decent." Hassan replied, "Wafaa, I bring what I can afford." "What do you want from me?" The argument escalated, and Wafaa started shouting in front of his parents. Sayeda, Hassan's mother, tried to calm her down, but Wafaa replied, "This is none of your business. He's my husband." Muhammad, Hassan's father, was upset by this and said, "My daughter, we want what's best for you both, but this kind of talk won't help." Wafaa went quiet, but it was clear she was full of resentment. On August 25, 2019, Hassan called Fatma for the third time. He told her, "Auntie, I just can't anymore. Wafaa keeps making things worse every single day." Fatma came to the house with Mahmoud, Wafaa's aunt's husband, and they tried to talk to Wafaa. Fatma said to her daughter, "Wafaa, you need to be patient. Hassan is a good man, and he loves you." But Wafaa replied, "He's the one who doesn't want to listen to me." Mahmoud tried to calm her down and said, "My daughter, marriage doesn't work like this. There has to be respect." But Wafaa was like a wall. She wouldn't listen to anyone. On August 28, 2019, it was just a regular day. Hassan came home from work tired and sat with his father and mother in the living room. Wafaa was in the kitchen making dinner, fried potatoes and salad. Suddenly, a verbal argument broke out between her and Hassan. This time, it was about money again. Wafaa said, "Why aren't you giving me your salary? I'm the one who manages the house." Hassan replied, "Wafaa, I bring home everything I can. What more do you want?" The argument escalated, and the shouting grew so loud that the neighbors out in the street could hear it. Fatma and Mahmoud, Wafaa's aunt's husband, were present in the house because they had come to resolve what had become a daily conflict. Fatma tried to calm her daughter down and said, "Wafaa, calm down, you're still newlyweds." But Wafaa was in a state of rage. She snapped at her mother, saying, "You're all against me." Mahmoud tried to intervene and told her, "My daughter, you're in the wrong. You need to listen to your husband." But Wafaa shouted back, "No one tells me what to do." In a moment of anger, Mahmoud slapped her across the face and said, "Pack your things and go back to your father's house until we find a solution. You ruined your first marriage, and now you want to ruin this one too?" At that moment, Wafaa exploded. She screamed, "I swear, I won't leave this house until I finish off that son of a dog." In a flash, Wafaa ran to the kitchen. No one understood what she was going to do. Hassan was sitting with his father and mother, completely unaware of what was about to happen. Wafaa came back like lightning, holding a kitchen knife in her hand. Before anyone could move, she stabbed Hassan in the chest, once, twice, 3 times. Hassan fell to the ground, bleeding, while his mother Sayeda screamed, "My son, Hassan!" His father Muhammad tried to grab Wafaa, but she was like a madwoman. Fatma, Wafaa's mother, was in shock, screaming, "What did you do, Wafaa?" Mahmoud, her aunt's husband, stood frozen, eyes filled with horror. Hassan died on the spot on August 28, 2019, just 33 days after his wedding, as reported by news sources. After stabbing her husband, Wafaa stood still, as if in disbelief at what she had done. She turned to Mahmoud and said, "That's it. I'm at peace now. I'm going to my father's house." Mahmoud yelled at her, "You've ruined everything. You've destroyed yourself and all of us." He immediately called the police. Within minutes, officers arrived at the house and found Hassan lying in a pool of blood, with the knife tossed under the couch. Wafaa didn't try to run. When the police asked her, "Why did you do this?" she said, "Since I married him, he hasn't left me alone. Every day there's a fight. Every day he complains to my mother and my aunt's husband. I ended it." On August 29, 2019, the police took Wafaa to the Zagazig police station and the investigation began. The public prosecution interrogated her and Wafaa confessed to everything. She said she felt suffocated by Hassan and that his constant complaints to her family felt like humiliation. She explained that on the day she killed him, after Mahmoud slapped her, she felt she had to prove that she was the one in control. The prosecution charged her with premeditated murder and referred her to the Zagazig criminal court. The case shook the entire Sharqiya governorate. During investigations, Hassan's family testified that Wafaa was the one who provoked him and constantly demanded money. Muhammad told the prosecution, as reported by the newspaper Saut El Omma, "My son loved her very much, but she was always asking for money, and in the end, she killed him right in front of me." Fatma, Wafaa's mother, said her daughter was under pressure, but she never imagined it would lead to murder. Mahmoud, her aunt's husband, was the main witness. He testified that he saw Wafaa stab Hassan and described how the fight started over ongoing financial disagreements. In late September 2019, the trial began at the Zagazig Criminal Court. The courtroom was packed with people from the village and both families. Wafaa stood in the defendant's cage, wearing the white prison uniform, her eyes fixed on the ground. Her lawyer, named Khaled, tried to defend her. He claimed that Wafaa was under psychological pressure due to her circumstances and that she didn't intend to kill. He tried to convince the court that the crime happened in a moment of rage, not with premeditation. He argued that Wafaa was just a young woman, 22 years old, and that her failed first marriage and the children she had left with her family had put her in a very difficult mental state. But the evidence was very strong. The knife Wafaa used was found, and it had her fingerprints on it. The forensic report confirmed that Hassan died from stab wounds to the heart. The testimonies of Muhammad, Sayeda, Fatma, and Mahmoud were all consistent. None of them contradicted a word. On November 15, 2019, the court issued its preliminary verdict: life imprisonment for Wafaa on the charge of premeditated murder. But the story wasn't over. Wafaa's lawyer, Khaled, appealed the verdict and argued that there were mitigating circumstances that should be considered. He said that Wafaa was suffering from psychological distress because of her failed first marriage and the tough conditions she faced as a young mother of two. On January 20, 2020, the Court of Appeals reviewed the case. But the court rejected the appeal and upheld the life sentence, 25 years in prison. Wafaa, who was still only 22 years old, now found herself facing a life behind bars because of a moment of rage that destroyed everything. This case, everyone, is not just a crime story. It's a story about how small marital problems, if no one steps in to solve them wisely, can turn into a disaster. Hassan was a simple young man, dreaming of a peaceful life with his wife. He dreamed of having a home filled with laughter and children, but his life ended at the hands of the person closest to him. And Wafaa, who had also dreamed of a fresh start after her first failed marriage, ended up destroying herself and two families in the process. This story reminds us that anger, if we let it control us, can lead us down a path of no return. Marital disagreements happen in every household, but if left unresolved, they can lead to tragedies like this one. And with that, today's episode comes to an end. If it's your first time on the channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you get all the new episodes. Stay tuned for the next one. Goodbye.